Hello and welcome to the Catch a Lift Coaches Corner. I am Cal head coach Melissa, and this week I'm honored to welcome retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant William Castillo to the show. Will is a retired U.S. Army veteran, Cal veteran athlete, and U.S. Para Bobsled team member. Welcome to this week's episode of Coaches Corner.
Thank
Will,
you.
welcome.
I'm excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you and talk, all things Will Castillo, but especially the bobsledding and everything. I'm so pumped. Let's jump right into it, Will. Would you talk to us a bit about your life growing up and what would ultimately lead you to the U.S. Army?
Yeah, so I was born in South America, Colombia. We moved to the United States when I was 4, Queens, New York. I was raised there till about 19, 20. That's when 9/11 actually happened. I had two young daughters back then. I was about 20 years old, and it was such a personal impact on the whole country, especially New York. I mean,
Yeah.
you just had to join. I felt like we had to join, and I joined. And that's what put me into the United States Army. I went to Fort Stewart. I went to Fort Knox for basic training and all my schooling, and then I was stationed at Fort Stewart.
Was your intention when you joined, Will, did you want to go to the fight? Were you looking to go to war?
I was. All I understood in Will's world back then was they attacked us and we needed to make sure that it never happened again, or they would think twice before doing it again.
Yeah. Will, what do you remember most about your basic training and your AIT that you went to?
Basic training, wow. Basic training was intense. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Fort Knox was really cold. It has a lot of hills. It was in the middle of winter. We did basic and schooling together, so it was like one huge basic training.
Right.
And so man, I just remember the friends, the camaraderie. I remember the person I started to become, and then the honor and the respect for the flag, like that just sort of grew into another level. And yeah, man, I mean, that's pretty much what I remember and I take with me. Yeah, it sucked, but you know.
Yeah. What was your MOS, Will?
I came in as a 63 Mike, which is actually a turret specialist.
Okay.
And then I transitioned to a 19 Delta, which is a scout. So my first tour, I was actually a turret mechanic, but I was put on a 88, so I was always leaving the foul, and I was always doing this, and I was always doing that outside the wire. So I said, man, this is what I like, and I sort of transitioned to that, and that's when I went 19 Delta, and especially I didn't have to really change the unit because I was in the front lines anyway as a frontline mechanic, and in 04, and then once we went to Fallujah in 06, 07, that's when the accident happened.
Can we let's go back here a minute, Will. Talk to us a little bit about that first deployment, when it was, where you guys were, and kind of what the mission was.
Yeah, so the first deployment was in Palo Alto. It was my very first deployment, so I was scared, I was nervous, but I had a lot of great leadership around me. I mean, I think that first deployment and the NCOs that were around me really sort of shaped up who I was going to become in the military and outside the military. So we went to Palo Alto. As a private, my mission was to pull fob security and tower detail. And I know they were running down MSR Tampa and sort of moving stuff around and searching for high targets. But that was out of my league. I just pulled security. I saw some scary stuff. Some friends did pass away. I had a real close one pass away. Sergeant Garska. He actually passed away when we came back on leave, and that one really hurt me more than But I'm sorry, I'm sort of sidetracked. But back to that, right. Yeah. So Palo Alto was a year of pulling security and doing the wire and the voting and all that stuff. I went in as a private by the time I made my sergeant rank in 2 years. So, I was fast tracking, but I had high speed NCOs that were squaring me away as I was going. So yeah,
That's
shout
great.
out to my first sergeant and my NCOs.
Will, talk to us about your second deployment.
Second deployment was different now, right? I was attached to a cab unit, and we were QRF pretty much. We went into Ramadi first. We were attached to the Marines there.
I'm sorry. Well, I'm just going to jump in there real quick. For anybody listening that doesn't know, can you explain to us what QRF is?
It's a quick response force. So let's say something happens and they need to clear that area. It's used a lot for when we are, medic back and that kind of stuff. Clear the area, respond quickly. We were attached to Ramadi, went into Fallujah. I think I was maybe a month when I went into Fallujah, and that's when the incident happened. There was a call, April 27, 2007. I was one of 5 trucks, Mad Dog 5. That's why I call myself Mad Dog 5. I was the TC, my driver, Kirkpatrick, my gunner, Temez. Some Marines got hurt. They called a helicopter in. They called QRF. We went in there. We cleared the area. On the way out, we ran over an IED. And the only reason I survived was because the medevac was still in the air and they called it down. Unfortunately, my driver and gunner were killed on site. And yeah, so that happened April 27th. And then I woke up in Walter Reed.
You woke up in Walter Reed?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much time had passed, Will, from the day of the injury to when you actually woke up in Walter Reed?
Well, once I woke up, they quickly induced me again. But I want to say it was close to a month.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. So actually, when I woke up, the first person I saw was my sister and my mother. Which totally it sort of I was so confused, and all these doctors rushed in, and then I was in and out for a while. And,
what was kind of the initial part of that recovery like, Will, at Walter Reed?
For me, or for the doctors? Well,
I'll say for you.
For me, I was still a father. I was a sole survivor, so I refused to let the leg sort of affect me in any way, shape, or form. So I was committed. I started right off the bat. I started interning. They had a lot of programs. Now, Walter Reed was full of programs to get soldiers up and ready into the real world. So you could intern. I was interning at ATF, Homeland Security.
Oh wow.
My kids and I was going through a divorce too, so my kids were there, my mom and my sister. So I was, still being a father. I refused to let anything sort of affect me. So I did my year, my 2 years. I mean, a year was surgeries and the TBI and all types of other injuries besides the leg.
Right.
And then the other year was me getting my stuff together, getting ready to get out of the hospital. I've been there for almost 2 years, and man, I needed to go on to my next chapter. So I got out, and that was my main initiative: get out, have a job, and I did that. I left Walter Reed with Homeland Security waiting to hire me in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that like working at Homeland Security? Talk to us about that experience.
Man, I have nothing but great things to say to them, but it was the most difficult time in my life. That's when everything hit me. That's when the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the survivor's guilt, the substance abuse, the medication, the drinking, there's so much, and I would go to work, and I would sit behind the desk, and they were so, you get labeled a hero, so everybody's so nice to you, and everybody's just sort of, oh, you need the day off? Oh, of course. or you're coming in late an hour. We understand, and there was no accountability on me,
Okay.
right? And I think as a soldier, or as military, when we're used to having somebody always above us, right?
Right.
Keeping us in check. Like I have to. Once you start leading, you have yourself to a standard, but you always have somebody above you, making sure that you're still growing as a leader.
Yeah.
And I think when I lost that, and I started to things, I'm not going to say things are handed to us, but people are very nice to us. They're very considerate, and
Right.
and sort of that sort of going away, and I just spiraled. I really spiraled. I mean, I was Baker Act. I went through a good 3-4 years of really bad stuff. And the only thing that really kept me going was my mother, God, and I had this nonprofit called Building Homes for Heroes that had given me a home, and so I was able to do my recovery in my home. Otherwise, honestly, I would have been homeless. I would have been one of those guys out there because
Right.
I lost it. I thought I had everything in order, and I lost it. So I went through that. And then I moved in with my mom. I met this great doctor at my VA center. Shout out to Dr. Mendez. And she's been my doctor for the last 6 years, and we've grown. I got married. I found a sport.
That's terrific.
And here I am 4 or 5 years later. People see me and they're like, "Oh yeah, look at Will, and you saw me national champion, bobsledding." But I mostly want to share is the struggle.
Yeah.
Like the struggle is what we all go through. I just happened to be blessed that the right people came in my life at the right time.
Yeah.
And I'm just a product of that.
Will, what would you say to veterans who are still, they're still in that spot? They're still, struggling with the substance abuse and the different, mental health issues, and they just, feel like they can't kind of get pulled up out of that, that kind of repetitive cycle?
Man, the first thing I would do is just get on my knees and pray, and with that little bit of hope, that hope could turn into maybe a phone call to your VA center. Go and speak to somebody. I used to refuse to take medication. I'm still on medication. It's part of who I am, and I understand that. I have so many things to balance that if I put on my leg and it's not angled at the right position, and I start walking funny, that could throw out my whole day because I get upset. I remember everything that happened. I'm retired. I really don't have to go nowhere. I could just stay in my house.
Yeah.
And then that turns into depression because that's not who we are. We're warriors.
No.
Each one of us. Right? And every time we do something, we accomplish something, that builds that fire up again. And when we start, like you're a leader in your community, you're talking about it, and then that holds yourself accountable. And next thing you know, we're back into this mentality of adapting and overcoming.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Will, you took this time, and you really focused on your mental health to be able to move forward. Can you kind of pinpoint some of the first things that you did? Like you said, you had this strong relationship with God, that was helping you. But like on a day-to-day basis, what type of things did you start to kind of implement into your life, to work on your mental health, to push through this time?
Going to therapy, talking about it. I hated it. Yeah. She used to tell me, "You'll get better, Will." I'll be like, "Dr. Mendez, I can't stand it. I talk to therapy, then I got to go home. I got to be a dad. I'm always mad. I'm always this. Everybody thinks I'm mean, for lack of better words."
Right.
But she was like, "Stick through it, Will." And slowly but surely. And then one thing that she used to tell me all the time and that she used to tell me, she says, "Will, when you have something bad happen to you, your brain copes with it either by avoiding it or confronting it." And she goes, "All that depression, all that stuff, that's you avoiding it. But your brain wants to confront because I could tell the reason you get depressed is because you do want to get better and you hold yourself accountable. That's a depression. It's like, man, I am so much better than this, right? That's you fighting to get out, right? There's nothing wrong with asking for help. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be here, and that's why I tell you, even in my website, like I make sure I mention substance abuse. When I was building the website, everybody was like, don't mention that and put it in with sports. And I was like, no, it has to be important because it made me who I am today. If I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be here. I have to.
And so many, so many in our community struggle with substance abuse. I know when I first came home, I struggled with it. So many of us do. And, for myself, by the grace of God, made it out of those bad times. But unfortunately, so many of our brothers and sisters still struggle with that. And it's absolutely something we cannot ignore, especially as a community, if you've dealt with it individually. And it trickles down into your whole family. It's not just you it's affecting.
Yeah.
Will, let's take a minute here. Would you tell us a little bit about your family today?
My family, okay. I'm happily married to my wife. She's an angel. She's my best medicine. I tell her that all the time. I think that the VA or everybody needs to do a better job in educating our partners and how to deal with us and what's really going on. It's not that we're mad. It's just this is what's going on, and she really helps me a lot, and she pushes me when I need to get pushed, and she strokes my ego.
Right.
She's like, "Oh, you're walking really nice today, Will." I'm like, "All right, well, let's keep walking then. Let's keep using that leg, right?" So she knows how to work it. So she's my angel. Mia, she's my youngest. She's 3. She is like a combination of all my kids put together. She's everywhere. So she's my angel. I have Isaac, that's her son, but he's my son. He's 6. He's an angel. My son, Xavier, he's 12. That's scary. I'm just trying to raise a good man.
Yeah.
And that's all I could really do. And and I tell him, we watched the news together. I said, son, your dad did all this stuff, but you're gonna have to fight for your own freedom.
Yeah.
And it's scary to watch a whole generation that hates the U.S.
It's heartbreaking.
Like, who's gonna fight for us?
Yeah.
I know we will. You and I will put on the best every day.
Absolutely.
But I want him to understand there's so much more love in the U.S. And then I have my 2 daughters, Andrea and Stanes. Stanes is a mother. Andrea is an X-ray technician, and I'm very proud of them.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Will, for sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm.
Will, tell us how you became involved in bobsledding.
All right, so famous bobsledding question.
Famous bobsledding. How did it start?
I needed to get a surgery at Walter Reed. I wasn't wearing my leg. My wife pushed me. She said, "Go and get the surgery." I went there with a friend named Lito Santos. Lito kept pushing me. He's like, "Well, I know this camp by this wonderful lady named Kim Sievers. Shout out to my coach, Kim Sievers. And it's to get veterans on the ice. Why don't you try out skeleton? Why don't you try out bobsledding?" I was like, bobsledding? I was like, yeah, sure, let's try it. I'll try anything once. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we went out there, and Will was about 280 pounds, was not in shape at all. Okay, so I tried skeleton, which is where you lay on this board and you go down the ice. But we started at a very low level, right? Okay. Beginner's level. And I did that. I did that for about a year, and I was just wicked crashes. Just like, Will, what are you doing? Like, you keep coming back, Will. And I'm like, I'm going to find it. And my coach was like, Will, why don't you try a bobsled? So Will got in the bobsled. And it's just like, I don't know, everything slowed down for me. And I was like, wow, I could really drive this. So I did that. And I sort of worked my way up to the middle of the track. But once again, to be on the Team USA, you had to be at, I think it's 210 kilos. Excuse me. 210 pounds, and I was weighing like 250, 260.
Okay.
So they were like, you know what? If you drop your weight and you still drive the way you drive, like, let's see what happens. So that whole summer, I think it was summer of 2019, I just started walking with my dog everywhere. That's when I got a hold of Catch a Lift, and I was like, I need to apply for some weights.
Yeah.
And I just started in my garage and just going at it all summer. Like, I just saw the weight going down. That started bringing my mood up.
Oh, I bet.
And I was like, man, I could do this. Like, this is the person I know I can become. And I just kept going. I went to try out for the team. I came in as an alternate. I went to my first World Cup as an alternate. Somebody couldn't race for whatever reasons, and they put me in. My very first race, I remember my Gold Star mom was there, Miss Kirkpatrick.
Oh, my gosh,
She went to see me. She was like, we're super. This was in Utah. So I'm nervous, and it's my first race, and I'm trying to play cool. I'm like, yeah, I got this. Don't worry. I'm trying to, right? And I crashed. But I come in 8th. I was having like an amazing run, and I came in 8th, and they're like, man, you could drive. And that was my first race. And then, I went to, and then I had to go to Canada. I had some issues there, and, me being an alternate, I really didn't earn my spot, and it was just a lot of stuff. So I was like, all right, how do I earn my spot? They're like, well, you could either win nationals. That means you're number 1 in the USA, and you earn your spot automatically. Or once you go to team selections, you got to beat them out.
Okay.
So I was like, all right. So I went to nationals, and I came in number 1. And I was like, all right, here we go. And I led the team that year. I got a gold medal in 2020. I beat some of the best in the world. I mean, Lonnie and Corey, these guys are amazing, and I just wanted to compete with them. So to actually beat them was like, oh my God.
Yeah, what did that mean to you, Will, to win that gold? What did that feel like?
It was an amazing, it was everything I could ever hope for and more, because when you sit there as an athlete and you hear the flags go up, you hear all these countries, whoever goes first, that's the flag they're playing. And I'm like, and then you being number 1 means you're supposed to be that spot. And you're just like, and you just got to be patient and pray and trust the process. And then when it happens, and to hear the flag and to see everybody paying that respects to the U.S. once more, man, what a feeling. It's like, I don't know, it's like being in formation when you were back in uniform or singing your unit song. It's just that powerful for you. And that's one of the highlights of my life, because I accomplished that outside the military.
Incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So here I am. It's my second time national champion, about to lead the team again this year. And our goal is to so we missed the Paralympics by 1 vote. Just 1 vote. So they're working on it to getting it back to 2026. But in the meanwhile, we have seasons, we have World Cup, we have, 27 athletes throughout the world that compete. All these guys, they have to raise their own money. You have to come out with your own sponsors, because you're not officially a para athlete, so nobody's covering you. But in order to get out there and stay number 1, you got to compete. So we have team selection coming up for number 2 and number 3. See who's going with us. We compete with women and men, because you all weigh the same. They put all the weights in the same.
I didn't even think of that. Okay.
Yeah. Nobody's pushing you. There's a machine that pushes you, so you get pushed exactly the same force.
Okay.
The weight's put in there if you're underweight or, whatever the case might be. So it comes down to your driving. So, I mean, some of the best bobsled driving, Guru from Norway, she weighs 80 pounds. She kick anybody's butt any day, So it's such an incredible and unique sport, because anybody can compete. You all drive the same equipment.
That's awesome.
So it's not like one country has better equipment than the other, and they're always going to win. No, it's the way it's been organized. It's completely fair, and it really comes down to your driving. It comes down to your driving and your core and all this stuff.
Will, what's it take to be the driver of a bobsled?
Wow. Well, I think courage. You know, I call it my 5 seconds of courage. I get nervous right before. I'm like, all right, Will, don't die, don't die, don't die. And then we go. And then we go, and everything kicks in. You know, you trust your training, and here you go. Courage, a lot of love for the sport, a lot of respect for the ice, and a lot of great people around you. You can't be a bobsledder by yourself.
Will, can you try to describe for us, what does it feel like going down a hill on a bobsled?
It's like a roller coaster you can drive. So if you go down a roller coaster, you feel that your stomach gets sucked up, and you're sort of stuck in that turn. You're like, oh.
I'm out at that feeling. So
that's exactly what it feels like, except you can drive it. But once again, I mean, before you even go to the top of any Olympic track, you know, there's a lot of rules and regulations, and a lot of camps and licenses, and people that make sure you're not going to go up there and hurt yourself or anybody else on it.
Yeah. Will, can you talk to us a little bit about the tracks themselves and just kind of differences maybe in some of the tracks or how they run?
Absolutely. Well, my home track is Lake Placid, New York. That's where they sort of open the doors up to all these para athletes, because once again, this is a new thing, and you know, you see a bunch of wounded veterans, and they all have, you know, hearts of gold. They're like, yeah, you know, somebody's got to be there to be like, okay, slow down, guys. You know,
yeah,
you know, your TBI is a little just too advanced, and you could get hit. So it took them a lot of trusting us and believing us to let us continue to go up to the top of the track, to prove to the world that we could compete with Team USA, because, you know, Team USA was out there, and that we belong there. So, you know, Lake Placid. So growing up growing up bobsledding in Lake Placid, it being so technical, they're like, well, if you could drive this track, you can drive anything. And it's very technical. Lake Placid, it's like you're moving. Like if your hands ain't moving, something's wrong, right? And then you go to Utah, and Utah's a very more delicate track, right? You want to sort of not move as much, sort of place the sled where you want to go. And all these tracks, like are usually with concrete and ice on top of it. Okay. Now, St. Moritz is the only unique track out there because it's made completely by hand. They actually freeze the snow, they freeze the ice, they shape it every year. So,
oh wow.
It's technically the same turns, but it's always different, right? It's made by humans, so it's always different. And that track is super fast, super quiet, right? And it goes down in the middle of the town, so people are watching you race. It's amazing. It's amazing. I smile just thinking about it. It's a beautiful track, but they're all beautiful. And they're all unique in their own way. Norway's a very high-intensity track, too, and it's just, you know, it takes your breath away just being there, competing with these amazing athletes. I mean,
I bet.
And representing your country again is, you put that all together, and then they throw you on a roller coaster you could drive. You know, it's like a lot of emotions, let me tell you.
Wow, absolutely incredible. So I would imagine there's studying that goes into this for you, being the driver. Do you study, like, if you're going to go and drive a track, like, are you studying the tracks, the turns? Like, what does that kind of look like?
Absolutely. So we do track walks. We walk the tracks. You have to study the turns. You have to study the turns at your point of view, not just a picture, right? Because you're the one that's going to be seeing it at that high speed. So you got to be able to react. You know, bobsled is one of those things. If bobsled will either flip you up and turn you on your head, or it will crash. Like, you have to know what you're doing. So a lot of people are like, well, do you turn? I'm like, yeah, there are steering mechanisms in there. And yeah, you study the track. So, you know, how can I put this? So my turns, the turn that I take, I'm preparing for the next one. And then sort of that. Okay, so the next one's a left turn. Gotta make sure I get on right, get down quickly enough, because it's gonna go left. So if you don't get off that thing, it's just gonna flip you upside down. So I'm just preparing, and it's if you do it right, it's like a dance. If you do it wrong and you touch every wall, you'll know you messed up, and then it's just like a don't die kind of thing. Yeah.
Good grief. Um, Will, what's your mental preparation like before you take to that track?
My mental preparation, well, I do a lot of praying. I do a lot of mind runs. I mean, when you're on the track, a race will last maybe 60 seconds, right? So your whole season could be maybe 40 minutes on the ice. So it's a lot of mind runs. I do a lot of core. I do a lot of physical activity because I want to feel right. I want to feel strong. Even though I'm just using my core and sort of my body, and I'm just straight up driving, I do like to be mentally ready. I don't want to feel sluggish. Well sleep. I don't eat the day that I drive because I get really nervous.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
eat. But sometimes you get out there and maybe the trucks get stuck, something happens, they shut down the track, so you could be out there for a good 3 to 4 hours. And so you have to have something to make sure to keep your carbohydrates up, just to be ready. Because believe it or not, when you go down that track, your adrenaline is just like, and you're just like, it's just in the. It feels like you did like a 2-hour workout after every run. So you have to be ready. Plus, you're high elevation, but it's doable. You should come out and try it. We have veteran camps all the time.
So I was just going to ask you, so for anybody listening that this is, kind of tripping that trigger in the head, how would a veteran become involved with something like this, Will?
Yeah, so the VA does a really good job of getting us grants to go to Lake Placid. So Kim Sievers has a veteran camp. I guess the best way to be would to either contact me or I'll put something on my Facebook so people could see. And we're always looking for veterans. I mean, the only way U.S. is going to be the best is by us competing against each other and finding out and really getting drivers out there. So yeah, we have 2 camps a year. And all you got to do, the camps start at the bottom from beginner all the way up. And if you get to the point that you want to try for the team, we're always encouraging it. Our team consists of 3 men and 3 women. So I'm all for it.
That's terrific. Would you kind of take us through, Will, in season when you're racing and everything, what would kind of a typical week of training look like for you in the gym? What kind of stuff are you doing?
Okay, so if I'm at the Olympic Training Center, we have a wake up, we have breakfast, we have stretching, we have classes, we have physical activity, we have recovery, and then we get into our sleds. We move our sleds from point A to point B. We do our track walks. We do our mind runs, and then we do our 3 practice runs. And we do that every day up to race day. Did I go too fast? Did you want more specific? Okay.
No. That's great. Thank you. So, Will, you mentioned it. You mentioned you've got the World Cup coming up. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about the upcoming World Cup and where all that's going to take you.
Yeah, so my World Cup will start in my home track, which would be New York. It will also start, then we'll go to Utah. Then we'll go internationally. I believe it's going to be Norway, St. Moritz, and Austria. And I believe that's going to be the whole month of February that will be out there in Europe. And then we'll come back home to do World Championships maybe here in the U.S. It depends on where the federation picks it. And then, of course, we have our nationals at the end of the year to prepare for the next season. But, yeah, I'm super excited. It's going to be 2 races at each location. Before I say, with like 27 athletes, top of the world. I mean, Lonnie from Canada, Corey from Britain. They're just top. Like Guru from Norway, like I told you, female pilot. There's so many great pilots out there, and we compete against each other, but we support each other and we help each other out because at the end of the day, we just trying to bring this sport and see how it changed our lives to anybody, veteran or just anybody out there.
Will, talk to us a little more about this, how bobsledding has offered you an opportunity to heal and grow.
Bobsled's changed my life. Like I said, it gave me a second chapter after the military. I'm achieving goals, personal goals that that wasn't metal. That wasn't pinned on me. It wasn't because my combat experience. I actually had to work hard for this. So the transition, the losing the weight, the making the team, the wearing that flag on your chest.
Yeah.
I mean, once you wear that flag, you walk different. You want to look like a bobsledder. You want to look, feel. You want to conduct yourself professionally. That means all that PTSD, all that stuff that we deal with, the anxiety of traveling. I get so much anxiety. I got to go to an airport. They forgot my bag. I'm going to miss my flight. I'm like, and I'm trying to make it through. And it's really hard. But once I push through that and I get into the sport, it was worth it. It's worth it. But I deal with it every day, regardless. So, I just, for lack of better words, I'm not going to say I suck it up. I prepare myself to travel, right? I get there super early. So that way when their security check is touching me all over the place, I'm like, go ahead, go at it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm good. I'm good on time. I know where I'm going. I got backup plans. And, I've talked to my therapist before I travel. Like, okay, here I go. She's, I prepare for it just like any other mission now.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that's something obviously a lot of us deal with, the anxiety with the travel. And again, especially if you are a competitive athlete and trying to do that, I mean, the travel in and of itself can it can bring a lot of its own challenges and do a lot of stuff to a person's PTS. So it's great to hear you talk about that and talk about how the preparation on the front end can really help alleviate some of that.
Yes, absolutely. We have to be smarter when we do things, right? I think sometimes we just like, all right, I'll do it. You want to go to a theme park with the family? Yeah, let's go. I'll suck it up. Right? Then you have a bad time and you're like, if I would have prepared for it just a little bit better, right?
This is true.
Maybe I would have had a better breakfast. Maybe, I have a map and I know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to find out where I'm going to take my breaks. Maybe I won't try to walk the park. Maybe I'll actually sit in a wheelchair. Maybe I'll just, stuff like that. I'm not saying you're going to have a great time, but you'll have a better time. I started to learn that as I started flying because it was the anxiety of flying that was really getting me sick. Like, oh my God, I got to get to Switzerland. How am I going to get to Switzerland? What, that's a long way.
Yeah.
And it was I was just getting sick. So by the time I got there, I was just like, oh. So and I think the Olympic Training Center, U.S. Olympic Training Center, they have a lot of great coaches, mental coaches. They have, travel coaches. They have people that really, really help you. And as well as our military community. If you look up any veteran organization, there's something out there for you to have a chat with somebody to prepare you, or ask another athlete.
Right.
What do you do? How do you handle this? And I think being a team captain sort of put me in that role. So I had to put my feelings aside and sort of lead the younger. Like we have this one female who just recently lost her leg, right? So she sees me all over the leg, and I can tell she's getting down because she's not there yet. But once again, she didn't know about the 7 years and, of all the stuff that got me there. So she thinks that's instantly, and it's not. So things like that couple me real quick, and it just makes me a better person when I lead because I hold myself at a higher accountability.
Absolutely. I want to talk about Catch a Lift with you, Will. And, earlier in the show, you mentioned, during that, 2019 when you had to really buckle down and, you were going to lose that weight. And you talked about, finding Catch a Lift during that period of time. How did you actually first learn about Catch a Lift?
There was a athlete going to the camps named Quincy.
Okay.
And Quincy and I roommate, and he was talking about Catch a Lift. Catch a Lift. He's like, well, once you get home, like apply. You can get this, you can get that. You can go work out. Like there's no excuse for you to be overweight. Like pretty much that's what he was telling me. You have no excuse. You can drive. You really want this? Go and get it then. Will.
Yeah.
Shout out to Quincy, by the way. And I did. So I got back. I applied, and the equipment came, and I set up my gym, and I think that was the first step. I took a picture of that, and I was like, all right. Like, you got to do this. It's right here. Like, there's no reason. And I knew if I didn't, I was just going to get more depressed, right? Yeah. Because I expect better of myself. So I was like, all right, let's do this. Like, you know, people were like, well, you could do it. And, you know, I had so many.
Can you touch on for us kind of the true impact Cal has had on your life?
Cal's a big part of the journey. When I wanted to start to working out, I didn't want to go to a gym. Honestly, I didn't. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want, you know, people asking me about my leg, my service. I respect and I thank everybody who thanks us, but you know, I didn't want to. So that's always been a hindering. Like, all right, going out. So when I realized that, okay, I could maybe do something at home, and I applied to Cal, and the weights came in. I set up my own gym, my own schedule, my way, my own goals. And once I started achieving those goals, I grew. Every milestone I reached, I grew. So I dropped 10 pounds. I'm like, damn, 10 pounds, you know? And then you start wearing tighter clothes, little clothes. And I'm like, damn, you know? And it's just like, I just started growing. Even today, like right now, I have a physical trainer I go to now. And I'm trying. But when I come home, I still do my little workout. Like I get stressed at home. Yeah. I'm like, all right, because I used to play a lot of video games. I get stressed, play video games. And now I get really, really stressed. I go out and do my little I call it a cow workout. Do my little cow workout.
Oh, I love it. The Cal workout.
Yeah, you
That's
know,
awesome.
It's my little home gym, and I feel great. Yeah. I feel good. I feel tired. I feel like I could sleep now. I feel like, all right, you know. Yeah. And that's what I do. It's a daily part. I take some of the stuff with me when I travel because working out has been a huge part of the gym releases. It makes me feel better. It really does. Like, I remember people telling me, like, yo, go to the gym. It fights depression. I'm like, whatever, dude. It does. It really does.
It does.
It does.
It does. And I know what you're saying there, too, because before, like, I, really committed to my fitness and, didn't just quit after 30, 60, 90-day kind of thing. But, like, people would say that to me, too, like, oh, kind of work out. It'll help. Feel better. Endorphin release. Get out of here with that nonsense. Like you don't have a damn clue.
Yeah.
It does, though. It does. There's such a release in it. It's absolutely incredible.
I think that's why we do PT in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Every veteran's, every soldier's, every military person's good to go. You do some PT, you feel good about yourself.
Yep.
Go to the motor pool and wait all day or whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you got a PT. You got to feel good.
Yeah. You're doing that before you do anything else.
That's right.
Yeah. That's awesome. Will, I have one last question here for you today. What does it mean for you to be a Catch a Lift Fund veteran athlete?
It's an honor to represent you guys. It means a lot. Like I said, I hold this title highly. Catch a Lift is a huge nonprofit. It's a small nonprofit doing huge things. Yeah. And I get it all the time, and I hope to work with you guys in the future because I have so many veterans out there like, yo, so I'm sorry, somebody just texted me. In my attention detail. How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I start? And I always send them to you. Like, they have coaches. They could get you equipment. They're gonna eliminate all the reasons why you can't work out.
Right.
Until you have no choice but to work out, pretty much. So and I've been watching you and your workouts, and it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool, and it's an honor to be here on the Coach's Corner, actually.
Well, Will, it has been an absolute honor to have you on and get to speak with you today. And first of all, thank you so much, Will, for your service to our great country and our flag. Absolutely tremendous. Thank you. And thank you for all that you continue to do within our veteran community. Thank you, Will.
Thank you so much.
That's it for this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. We will return next Wednesday at 1 Eastern Time with another new episode. Thank you, Will, for sharing your story and your light with us all today. Just absolutely wonderful. Thank you to ID Technologies and ClearBridge for all your support of the Catch a Lift Coach's Corner podcast. Thank you to Lynn Coughlin, Henry Pomper, and Kaylee Nasiri for all of the work you do to make this podcast possible week after week. And we thank the entire Catch a Lift team. Don't forget, every week you have a chance to win Cal swag by joining our live podcast chat at Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Until next week, keep it real and stay Cal strong.